Hi, I'm Luke, representing Blue Tinted Glasses, the best Leicester City content channel on the internet. Today we are joined, as always, by always best regular Duck. How are you, mate? All the way from Denmark.
I'm doing good, mate. I'm doing good. I don't want to say I'm jumping up and down my seat for the weekend. It'll be nice to get a break from losing in the Premier League, right? So let's see what happens in the cup.
Optimistic as always. I love it. Apologies, everyone. I've just literally raced poor Duck out of bed. I've got the time zones completely wrong. Duck is currently activating as we speak, but he's always on one, so it's good to have him here. Let's get into this preview. We're all probably still upset about the January transfer window. I'm sure many people have seen my rants. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it's how I felt. So, yeah, a few disgruntled fans of Leicester City right now, wouldn't you say, Duck?
Yeah, for sure. Even when I'm thinking it's more likely we get relegated than stay up, you definitely know there is something going on, right? Because I'm always sometimes even blindly optimistic.
I try to be. I always get mad. I rage. And then I have like a few days to calm down, and I'm just like it's like I want to believe again. Like and I'll tell myself, like if there's a game at 3 in the morning, I remember this last time we got relegated. I'm like, why am I fucking waking up to watch this shit? Why am I doing it? I'm like, oh, because I love the club, and I don't want to wake up and then see, oh, maybe we won and we had a surprise goal, and I'm like, oh, I should have watched it. And then
Yeah.
we all
I mean, I
remember
can
that.
imagine, like, you'd probably blame yourself, right? For me, it's just in the middle of the day, but waking up at 3 a.m. just to watch, the load of shite we delivered against Everton. I can imagine that'll definitely take on your mood a bit, and I'll be a bit more mad too if I woke up at those times for that.
Oh, I'll be right. It is what it is. You can't change who you love as a club. All right, let's get into this preview, mate. So this is obviously the third time we played United this season. Haven't won yet, and
It's
incredibly
crazy, man.
frustrating.
They've
Is
been
it's
so
that
bad and we haven't won.
not
Horrible.
one game. We got battered as well the last game by, ironically, Ruud van Nistelrooy, who some United fans are probably wishing that they kept now. But let's get into it, mate. So here you can see our recent form. I don't even want to look at this, Duck. Do
I
you?
mean,
Do you
at
want to
least
just skip
there's a
it?
win in that, right? At least there's a win in that. Before it was just L's. Now there's a W. I'll take it. It's better than before.
Yeah, it's better than all red, isn't it? Here we've got Manchester United statistics against Crystal Palace. I've just finished watching that game. Very, very dodgy second half. Obviously, you can see a lot of shots, a lot of possession, but possession doesn't win you games. But of 17 shots, only 2 on target. Something to be said for that. What are your thoughts? Did you watch much of the game, Duck?
I don't watch every United game, right? But I've watched them a bit during the Ruben Amorim era. What I noticed when I looked at the starting lineups though is he seems to have very little faith in both Xerxes and Højlund. None of them are firing at the moment, right?
Mhm.
They aren't really scoring the goals. I think he started Mainu. At the very least, that's what my app said in terms of playing in the striking position. He might have changed it around a bit, right? Yeah, it is Mainu on top. And when you're at that point, when you have Højlund and Xerxes on the bench, to me, he has a system, and if that system will work, we're yet to find out because it's quite clearly the players don't fit in what he wants them to do, really.
That's a very good point that we'll touch on. I actually agree with you, mate. I don't think he has a squad to play, in my opinion, the way he wants to play. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I think he's a very good manager, and he proved it at Sporting Lisbon. But I just think that he's kind of been thrust. He's kind of very actually quite similar to Ruud van Nistelrooy, been thrust into it in the thick of it. Don't have the players they need to play the brand of football. He's been somewhat back. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is the starting 11, as you can see, for their game against Crystal Palace. And I agree, playing Mainu up top as a false nine was crazy. And if you are going to play a false nine, you have to have width. Hence why they have their wing backs and they have a back three. But in my opinion, it did not work. And it was quite hard to see. And I can appreciate why so many United supporters are really frustrated at the moment. The big one as well, before we get into, I'm glad you're here, Doc, is unfortunately, Lissandro Martinez is out the season with an ACL tear. An amazing player, and I don't like seeing the
Yeah,
injuries. Like, unless you play for Leeds or like Cov, like I don't want to see stuff like that. Like, it's horrible, particularly of his injury-riddled career as it is. What a great
yeah.
player he is, but it leads into, mate, why I'm actually glad you're here. So for the new signings for United, they've signed Aiden Heaven, who is an absolute very, very talented youth academy product out of Arsenal. Unfortunately, because
Mm.
of the partnership they have at centre back there, he can't crack the squad. He's actually been featured quite a lot into the first team in training for his young age, so he's highly talented. It's just the road for him to get there probably not as soon as he would like. So they've signed him and they've signed Patrick Dorgu, left-footed
Mm.
centre back, can play left back, can play centre back, mate. Why don't you take me through him as your local Dane? Because I think this is a good signing for them to replace Martinez.
I mean, Patrick Dorg, right? He came through the Northern Academy, didn't quite cut it in the Danish Super League. Actually, they preferred other talents to him, so they sent him out to Lecce, where he has actually reached 50 Serie A games. He's mainly a left back, I want to say, but he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. He's a very offensive-minded left back who can play for Lecce. He's played both right wing, offensive midfielder, left wing as well when needed to. I think a bit of striker as well. He can genuinely play it all, really, especially going forward. He has had his breakthrough on the Danish national team, but he's not currently starting. Victor Christiansen, by the way, is keeping him out of the Danish national team. He did start one game during our Nations League campaign when Victor Christiansen was out with a suspension. But he's great going forward. He's quick on the ball. He's agile. He's decent on the ball as well. His defensive work, last time I watched him, could definitely still use some work. He isn't impossible to get past, but going forward, he has a different dimension. And I think it's very likely we see him start ahead of Diego Dalot, who to me just doesn't fit that wing back, left back position, because he looks completely out of place there.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I actually agree with you. I heard there is rumours that Luke Shaw could be back, whether they play him in that role or a left-footed centre back. I think he's probably more likely to play the wing back role. But like, I'd be very interested to see Manchester United's starting 11. I would suspect that if it's not Dorgu playing there, potentially it's probably going to be Maguire. He's played the back three for England. He's done it before for United. But that leads into, not just yet, but I want to talk about this actually. So the rant's probably going to continue. You alluded earlier talking about, where the club's at and stuff like that. And this, in my opinion, speaks volumes. So you can see here outgoings, no further signings other than your boy here, Woyo Koulibaly. But you can see here Oliver Ewing made a loan to Buxton. I don't want to pronounce it. It's Arhan Rahi. Excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. Joined Tamsworth for loan. Thomas Wilson-Brown loaned to Kilmarnock. Will Alves off to Cardiff. Hamza Chowdhury off to Sheffield United. And Tom Cannon sold to Sheffield United. So removing the Hamza and Cannon, which is just absolutely fucking criminal because we've just depleted our squad further and done nothing. But this is a massive indicator to me that the club's already accepted relegation. We're not going to spend any more money. We're not going to make things harder for ourselves financially. We're going to get as much experience as we can into our youth. It really screams volumes about where the club's head's at. And right now, as Nigel Pearson would like to say, I think they're an ostrich and their head is in the sand. But that's my thoughts, mate. What do you think of this? Because to be honest with you, Doug, the last time I did a preview for the FA Cup, in my 11, I had so many youth. I thought Alves was going to be started and we went strong. And we can't even experiment with our youth now. So, spoiler, I think we are going to go strong. What are your thoughts on this?
I think it's good we get the youth out on loan, especially because we can see even the best of our youth, right? And Will Alves hasn't been able to break through the first team, really only gotten a few minutes against that Man City game. So I'm very happy someone like he comes out and gets some experience. I don't really mind loaning out Hamza and Tom Cannon, right? Because Hamza has essentially been replaced with Woyo Koulibaly as the backup right back. I hope Woyo Koulibaly, though, takes the starting right back spot. I think he has something different there that we definitely need at the moment. And Tom Cannon wasn't a part of the squad in the fall, right? Being loaned out to Stoke. So selling him on for a bit of profit. It does annoy me, though, that didn't give us enough headroom to be able to spend a bit more in the window. That's my main annoyance about selling him. Because, there is money to spend. The problem just is the PSR headroom from what we're told. But without knowing what that headroom is or what the financial situation really currently is at the club, it's very infuriating because we don't know why we can't really sign someone. How close are we to the headroom? All of these questions I have, financially speaking, they won't be answered until we see the report in April.
100%, mate. Very frustrating. Like, no transparency whatsoever. And that's what makes you, come to these conclusions and people start making assumptions purely because of this radio silence. And Tom Cannon, for me, I just think he was a proven championship striker. He's probably going to be in the Premier League next season. We very well, most likely, will not be not. So we really could have used him next season, in my opinion. Daka will only have one season left. But the one good silver lining out of this is Will Alves finally getting a loan. But it really highlights, really good, isn't it? But it highlights more ineptitude that he should have been loaned at the start of the season. And so should have Golding. Why did we pay £5 million to Chelsea? We all know why, because of the Dewsbury Hall deal for them to make it look like no money in the books, because I think it was the Golding fee pays for, I think, a year of Keenan Dewsbury Hall's wages, I believe, because it's so many years in the contract, hence why Chelsea getting around this FFP. and selling himself hotels. But why do we pay it? It doesn't, it's regardless. If he's not going to feature or even be loaned out, if we're going to pay $5 million to put someone in a youth academy and play them in under 23s or whatever, it's redundant to me. So I would like to see him get a loan or even feature in this FA Cup game. What do you think about Golding?
Haven't seen much of him recently, right? We saw him a bit in the preseason. I recently took a look at what our squad could possibly look like if we went down, and Golding took a bit of time to be reminded of. He hasn't featured much recently, I think, in the U21s. I don't know if he's out with an injury and we don't know, or what his current exact situation is. Again, the lack of transparency and the lack of information in and around the club is really infuriating, to be honest, because we don't know what is going on with our players behind those closed doors. And obviously, we don't need to know everything, but if one of our young upcoming prospects is out injured for a few months, we would like to know so we don't sit there and wonder, where is Golding?
100%, man. I'm there with you. So this leads into, do you think Ruud will walk? Maybe not after an FA Cup game, even if we get pumped. But like, let's say the Arsenal game, it's official now. He hasn't been backed. He said there would be funds available. We've only spent 3 million and we've actually depleted the squad further after everything we just went through. People say he won't walk because it'll look bad in his resume. I think it will look worse, like keep having back-to-back defeats. And I don't think, a next potential like club that may be interested in him, particularly if he's going to be, kind of like the Vincent Company route where they can see like, look, he's got an attractive brand of football. He just hasn't got the players to do it. If they really wanted to look into it, they'll be like, look, he wasn't back to Leicester City. I think we should give him a chance. We have a better squad. I don't think that, like, we went for him and we've still lied to him essentially after he left PSV after they did back him. So I genuinely can see him walking again, to be honest with you. I think his ego is that big, and I think he would. What do you think?
I currently don't think he'll walk, right? Obviously, last week's loss was a bit of a gut punch after a win, after so long, right? But we played really well and defended nicely. So I think it's clear there's a quality manager in here. He isn't fully polished yet. He still makes some mistake, right? I think setting us up with a high line against Everton was just a bit naive, right? When we don't have any pace in the centre back position with what he started us with, at the very least. So he's not perfect. I think he's good though. He's setting us up well, normally speaking. The players seem to like him, from what I'm hearing, right? There's a lot of respect towards him in the dressing room. He hasn't lost the dressing room either as well. So I don't think he's walk, even though he feels he probably hasn't been backed, especially because he's already, I would say, in too deep, because he left PSV because he wasn't back, but they finished second still, just one game before. That's still a very good finish, but I think it'll look more cowardice to leave now, right? You'll be a bit of a coward if you leave when you have had such a big implication on relegation, essentially, right? Because he has offered many losses to our record. I think we've looked miles better under him than Cooper, and I think he's definitely the better manager and the better fit for us currently. But I think, there is already an imprint on his career being here at Leicester, and walking now or waiting until relegation, or even staying past relegation and rebuilding us. I don't think it changes much in terms of his CV, because the relegation, if we go down, will be there if he walks now or if he stays until the very end.
That's very true, and I love the choice of word there, coward. That's the best.
But I think it would look a bit like that. It might sound rough, but when you walk now, right, when you've had this big of an imprint, I mean, I can understand it because you've been lied to, but it is a bit cowardly.
It very well could be. I don't know, and the dressing room is an interesting one, because I definitely think the players respect him a lot more than Steve or Cooper. But there is all these reports. We don't know how much of it's true about the boot of Buonanotte, and now apparently it comes out from Rob Tanner that Coley stood up for Facundo for the boot. So they're sticking up for each other, which is nice, at least to see they've got some camaraderie in the dressing room. But if that's the reason that they're both not featuring, and we don't see them even featuring this FA Cup game at all, that worries me, because that's to a detriment of our team. If we're going to play a high line, we have to play a Coley. And also, like Buonanotte, we know how good he is. And it reminds me a lot of when Brendan Rodgers stopped playing Sionsu and just kept playing Amati at centre-back. Like, it just felt like suicide, and it was purely because he'd obviously fallen out with him. And I think that you have to put the club first, not your own ego. What are your thoughts on that?
I think obviously the club has to come first, right? I don't currently think he puts his own ego first. I will say, I think, he's trying to pick the best of a bad bunch. But I'd not say hasn't been informed when he's gotten the chance. I mean, he did look good in that Man City game, but his few other cameo appearances haven't been too good. Ayu's had a few good moments, but often he's just so middling, man. He's never a game changer, never really a game changer. And that's what infuriates me the most, right? Because we're used to having game changers on the right wing with Mahrez in the past and Fatawa most recently, right? Who could take the game in his own hands. And Ayu's just not that player. And yeah, I'm at the point where I want to see Fernandes as a feature again. And I've been someone who's been, fine with Ayu starting because we don't have any good options off the right. I'm at that point where I think if he just continues to start Ayu now with how he is playing for the next 3-4 games, I think you can start questioning if he's playing him for the ego because he doesn't like Buonanotte. But currently, so far, I think it is a genuinely fair point to be starting Ayu.
Yeah, you can make the argument that, like, as good as he is, Buonanotte is not a right winger. Like,
exactly, right? You're playing him out of position, and yeah.
It just reminds me of when we played. I know I sound like a broken record, but it reminds me of when Rodgers used to play James Maddison in that position, and he would just drift in. It would be the same thing. So let's get into this. So you can see Ruben Amorim now. Ruben Amorim's managerial style. So he prefers a formation is a 3-4-3, which gives him control over different areas of the pitch, and his defensive shape, which I'll pull up in a second. He does use a compact 5-2-3 defensive shape when needed. And his winged approach, he favors a dynamic wing backs and inverted wingers behind a central striker. So a lot of rotation and fluid playing football under Ruben Amorim. And I think he's just struggling because he is alternating his 11s quite a lot, trying to figure out on the job and the point of the season that he is at. Probably quite difficult, particularly when he doesn't have the players he needs to play this style. I can understand, again, a lot of frustrated United fans and supporters, but I think that, like, if he stays in to the end of the season, he doesn't get sacked. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the next summer transfer window and if he gets the players he needs and where they progress from there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you have to stick with him for the rest of the season, right? I don't think they'll see incredible progress throughout the rest of the season because it is very clear some players are just not in form who I think could work decently well in the system. I think someone like Højlund could actually work in it, right? There are a few similarities to Gyökeres, but I think Gyökeres is just all around better. But I think they have some players who need time to adapt and have the ability to adapt, but at the same time, there are players that are just so clearly out of position. For example, Diego Dalot, right? Should never be on that left back. He looks all over the shop on that wing back role. So, yeah, definitely needs new players. And I think Dorgu is actually, the area where the times I've watched him is the biggest problem here, right? That left wing back. I don't think Dalot works there at all. And Shaw is always injured, really, even though Shaw is someone who I think could work in that position. If you have a player for 5 games of the season, you obviously need someone else, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, there is talks of him possibly been ready to come back, but I doubt it. But
yeah, he'll be back for 5 games, then he'll be gone again with another knee injury. That's the thing, right? It is very, very bad for Shaw. He's a good player, but he's just too injury prone.
He is. It is a shame. Here you can see some examples of the formation. The top one, you can see him at Sporting Lisbon. You can see your 3-4-3 here, as well as in here. This is in the Crystal Palace game. You can see in defense that you got it back to 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 2, 3. Sorry, and then you can see the 2 midfielders and 3 up top. So very interesting. Very different to what we see in a lot of the Premier League shapes and formations. The most generic, obviously, the 4-2-3-1. A lot of people are playing that, when they kind of start and not really in possession, and then you're seeing a lot of people playing a back 3 now. So it's very interesting to see. Here we've got his attacking tactics, which I want to highlight because I'm not going to go too much of a deep dive being in an FA Cup game and stuff like that. But I am very, very, I'm curious to see what United fans think. I think the line-breaking passes that he kind of looks for is a bit of a detriment to United, and I'm going to get into it why. Because if you look here, so look, you can see here, I believe this is Joe Linton and Almiron here against Newcastle, and you can see there is acres of space between the back 3 or the back 5 and the central midfield double pivot here. The acres of space is absolutely brutal. And if they get hit in transition, which they're about to, they're going to be toast. So there's a lot of space. As well as, so if you look here in this bottom photo here, you can see that they are very, very, not very good at their numerical superiorities. They're always outnumbered in all areas of the pitch. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they got 8 players around 1, 2, 3 are carrying the ball here. So they're able to build and absolutely destroy them and cut them off. And you've got all these players in the way here. So if United were somehow to be able to win and get the ball back, where are they going to line break pass to? There's people. I saw this a lot as well in the last game. Like, where are they going to pass? It's going to get intercepted by one of these many players here. So I'm going to talk about Bruno Fernandes in a second, because it's going to come into the same point here. But what are your thoughts from what you've seen, Duck? I know we don't have all the time in the world to watch every single game, but I think it's evident to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'd kind of describe it. Maybe it's like, having Enzo come in mid-season, right, trying to learn his tactics from scratch, because it definitely takes time. They need a preseason, some players to fit the roles that he needs as well. Yeah, I mean, they just haven't been good, right? I haven't looked fully into their tactics when I've been watching them, but when you see them, they feel disconnected, just disjointed from each other. I do agree with the numerical superiority, right? Because often they're too stuck in the position they've been told to, and don't really know how to press or when to press and when to squeeze the pitch. Like, all of these finer details, it feels like, of the new tactic and the new system just haven't been embedded yet. And they're very much just focusing on, this is where I need to stand at this point. This is where I need to go when we get the ball. I do the overlap here. I like the very foundations of the system is still being implemented from the looks of things when you're watching them. And I mean, maybe they'll be better at creating numerical superiorities and cover more ground, when they've had more time. But so far, they haven't been good under Amorim. They've gotten a few wins where they've scraped at home due to the quality of their players. But I think, tactically speaking, we should be able to beat them, because they just need more time and they need better personnel for the positions.
I'm with you there, Duck. Here as well, so we've got the defensive. This ties into as well the defense. So here you can see, like, this is the Crystal Palace game. You can see Maguire here on the ball in the back three, very high line. Maguire, right? So if they're going to play a back three in possession with a high line, we've just been through this of ourselves, and you can see clearly that Maguire is, like, if they lose the ball and hits in transition, the ball goes over the top, which you do see in this game, and they do score from it. I believe it was Mateta that scored as well twice. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because Maguire's the same thing as Yannick Vestergaard. He's like, we all know his pace is an issue. So, like, a ball at the top is absolutely toast. It's not going to work. I know they drop back into a back five if they have time out of possession, but if they get hit quickly on the counter, it's very, very vulnerable, in my opinion. They're there to be got at. So it's going to be interesting to see who they play in the back three. Are they going to play Maguire, or are they going to play this? Are they going to play who's going to be in the central, basically builder? Is it going to be him? Is it going to be Delit? It's going to be interesting to see. But I just thought I would highlight this as well, that the highlights scare me. If you haven't got pacey centre backs, in my opinion, you shouldn't do it, and nor should we.
Yeah, I'm hoping we see some pace starting in our starting 11, right? I want to see a Mavididi come back into the starting 11. Look at the space there is on the wings, right? I want to not say as well, to be fair, I think he would do better in this. And then to try and drive with the ball down the right and then do something from there, cut inside later. Or, yeah, I mean, Vardy still has some pace in moments. He isn't normally as quick, or I think we have a lot of pace in our team. We just haven't been playing a lot of the pace, but I think some of that needs to either come off the bench pretty early this time or start around, because as you can see on the exhibit you have here, right, the acres of space in between them. If we catch them playing a bad pass, we need to just get on our bikes and make the most of those chances.
I'm glad you brought that up and you picked that, Duck, because we're going to talk about that at the end of the show. So good on you for picking that up. There is acres of space, mate. So Bruno Fernandes, this is an interesting one. And if you're a United fan and you're watching this and you're probably thinking that I'm being quite negative on United, trust me, mate, I know I am. And it's purely because we are so shit. We know we're shit, Duck. We're just looking for areas that could be exploited. We're looking for something small to cling to. So forgive us. But I want to know, let us know your thoughts if you're watching this, a United supporter. Do you not like Bruno Fernandes at the pivot? I think it's very, very strange because he's not very defensively minded. We know he's an amazing 10, but in my opinion, it's just not working. He has his moments, but here you can see. So here's against the Liverpool game here, you can see his passes. So the greens are the ones that have got off, and the reds that are obviously the ones that have failed. And what's interesting is Ruben Amorim does like going for those line-breaking passes. And if you look at every single one is considered a line-breaking pass here and there, they've all not worked. You can see a couple that have worked, but they're all building from quite wide. Very interesting. Is even he has dropped back right in front of the penalty area. Very, very deep. I've seen him do it several times, actually, even in the Crystal Palace game, even helping out the back three. So it's quite interesting to see. It's very, very fluid football, but not his natural position. We're seeing a lot of people rotating in funky positions under Ruben Amorim. So it's I don't know. I admire it. It's ambitious, but like until it works, you can look stupid. What are your thoughts on Bruno Fernandes playing in the double pivot?
I think he is the big playmaker, right? He's so often been the the key to the team. So he has to cover more ground, really. It feels a bit like in the Danish national team where we had a period where the game has had to always go through Eriksen before we had a lot of the young talent now coming through. So he would often, drop down, help build up, then move up in attack, help, continue to build up the attack or finish it off himself. And it kind of feels like that, right? Because Bruno is the guy to play through. If they are to succeed at anything, it's likely the ball will come from him at some point during the build up. So like the more they get him on the ball, the bigger the chance, and that just means he'll float around wherever the ball really is, right? To be in that position as the conductor of the play.
Spot on, mate. This here is my now. I wouldn't call this a predicted lineup. This is the light 11 that I want to see just for this game. Mm-hmm. I want to see Stalacic in goal, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mads in there purely because he needs more game time because he didn't look match fit already on the weekend at Everton. I think we can both agree. And it's easy to say that in hindsight. I did call it at halftime, but to be fair, before the game said even though Stalacic had a great game against Tottenham, if we didn't no idea because again radio silence from Leicester. If we had any idea that he was going to be available, you'd bite your hand off to have him back. So, but we got Wout Faes and a Coley. Yannick Vestergaard absolutely has to be dropped completely. Like that was just the worst game I think I've ever seen him in a Leicester City shirt. Unfortunately, I would rather have Faes, who I still think is an absolute liability. I'd still rather have him over Connor Cody. James Justin at right back. Victor Christensen, your boy, at left back, although we may see Luke Thomas for the cup game, but I think we're going to go strong. El Khanous, now this is what's interesting. I've talked about this for a while. I'll put El Khanous in at the double pivot position. The reason is, in my opinion, he drops deep as it is. He wins balls back. He's physical for his size. He puts tackles in. He's much better at scouting a pass than Boyanote is. Very, very good on the ball. In my opinion, he could be absolutely vital in that role. We can still push up. He can still drop back. And also we've got Boubacar Samari. Terrible game last week, but in my opinion, he's the best option we have in the double pivot unless Wilfred Ndidi becomes available. That gives Boyanote the chance to play in the number 10 role if we do put El Khanous there, where he's going to take his man on and run and be much more effective, in my opinion, that central role where he played well under Cooper. Obviously, as we alluded to earlier, Wilfred, we have Steffi Mavadine in the left wing. We need his pace. He's, in my opinion, only really out-and-out winger that we have that can be affected, take his man on. It's just about what he does after when he does take his man on and win. Now, this is the interesting one. So I've put Koulibaly on the right wing option. Now, this may be cool. This may be crazy. Either way, it doesn't matter. Even if it's right back, left back, right wing, he has to start. We know he has the right foot and the left foot. He's ambidextrous, good at both feet, can be that option to be able to tuck in and be able to take a shot off his left foot. If he's up the pitch, he can be defensively minded and drop back if needed to support JJ. That's going to be a lot better support option than Boyanote and the right wing, in my opinion. Plus, he has the option of the left foot. So, in my opinion, if we're going to play JJ far up the pitch, even under Ruud van Nistelrooy, why not try it? It's a cup game. Fuck it. He needs to start. He's our only signing. We've got to make use of him. And, of course, I've put Patson Daka up top because we can't just keep running Jamie Vardy into the fucking ground, mate. This is the game to play him if they're going to play a high line. What are your thoughts on this 11?
I mean, it's bold. I think it'll have some struggles defensively, right? But I like what it would do for us offensively speaking. That's how I'll phrase it. I think you're right in El Khanous being able to dictate the tempo, even as a deep-lying playmaker, and moving a bit forward on the field when he has the ball to find those plays. I agree with the Mavadini starting. I think Daka is, like, again, if there is a game for him to start, this is the one. And again, give Vardy a much-needed break. I think the man needs it, man. He's been overworked. And we know he can still be good in the Premier League. He was clinical at the beginning of the season. But recently, it has been, fewer and far between, right, in terms of good performances from him. And giving him a week's break, to me, would seem very fair. I've also floated with this idea of Koulibaly at right wing, especially because we don't have a right winger currently with Fatawu injured, really. Instead of, Ayew can play there, but Boyanote can play there, but none of them have it as their preferred position. I'd like to see that be given a chance. I think there's a chance that Ricardo, when he comes back, right, he'll try and play that right wing position too, to be honest. And I think that's what we have to do now because the options we have just doesn't work on the right wing. So again, try something new. Woyo seems to have some of the qualities. Plus, he will be able to offer much needed defensive cover when they have the ball, right? Because he is, after all, a right back who can get stuck in and make some good tackles.
Thank you, Doc. I was actually thinking about this at work today, mate. That's a very good point. I actually thought about this to myself as well. Ricardo Pereira as a right wing option is very interesting because he We know he's pushed up that far on the pitch before under Rodgers. We know he can do it. We've seen him play in both side 8 positions, both side. He's an amazing player. I'm just worried about where he's going to be, what his fitness is going to be like. His pace looked a little off it when he did play against Forest, but then again, he hadn't been playing so long under Cooper. Again, criminal. But very, very good take, mate, because I have thought about that to myself, and I agree with everything that you just said. So it'll be interesting to see where Koulibaly plays and if he starts. And in my opinion, he has to start. So that leads us into our closing thoughts. So before I go for my points here, I will say that I'm fairly certain I think United are going to go strong, mate. This is probably going to be their one and only chance of getting into any European football whatsoever. It's quite obvious they're not going to finish top 6. So if they can have a good FA Cup run, win this game against us, go strong, and hopefully get like a lesser team to play in the next round, I think they're going to go full force and trying to go the whole way. And that's their ticket into European football next season. Get that TV money, reinvest it into the squad. If Glazers will do that remains to be seen. But in my opinion, United will go strong. And I think we're going to go strong too, to be honest with you, because we don't have that much youth options really to play because, as I pointed out earlier into the show, we've nearly dished all of them out. So in my opinion, Leicester City need to exploit open spaces. As you pointed out earlier, Doug, by United, particularly on transition, I really think we can break them. And when they're on the ball, I think this needs to be an aggressive game. For pressing United, they have to be swarmed on the ball to prevent United from any form of build-up. That alludes earlier to the slide I pointed to with the numerical superiorities when they're in possession. So if we can swarm them, prevent them from making those line-breaking passes, I think we can absolutely hit them hard on transition. That's my one and only hope. And again, last point, if Maguire is playing, a well-placed ball over the top with Daka's pace could be deadly for United. These all sound like weaknesses that we just got pumped with by Everton, but hey, I can see similarities with United. What are your thoughts? What are your closing thoughts, Doug? What do you think about this, and what do you want to see?
I'm hoping we don't get smashed. I'm hoping we see some. Avoid Koulibaly start is really the only start that I need to see. To be honest, I need to see more from that guy, especially as I didn't get to watch the last half of the Everton game. Right, so I haven't seen him much in action. I am. A win would be nice, but if we lose, I don't really care as long as we don't get smashed. I'm hoping to see people build up some form, maybe Ndidi in the squad as a substitute to get 10, 20 minutes of football in the legs, right, for next week's Premier League game. The FA Cup doesn't matter this year for us, in my opinion. It's all about just getting some fitness in the legs and getting more match sharpness, in my opinion, because it is all about staying up in the Premier League, and I don't want to invest too much in winning. Or trying to win, because I don't think we can win it in the FA Cup, right? So, yeah, just see where the game takes us. I'd be down to start Daka. I'd be down to experiment a bit, and Wuyo has to start, and to me, in my opinion, Mads Hermansen as well, just to build that match fitness.
I'm totally within the man-to-man, and I tossed and turned to that for ages when I did that 11. So I actually agree with you, to be honest, mate. The only reason I put Jakob there is because if this is going to be our last FA Cup game, it's probably going to be Jakob's last chance unless Manson gets injured to play a game. But I can totally appreciate it probably is important to get some more match fitness into Mads Hermansen. Before we go on to wrap this up, mate, give me your score prediction for the game.
I think it's going to be a bit of a bloody one. I'm going to say, I'm always going to have to predict us to win, to be honest. I'm going to say 3-2 Leicester. I think it's going to get down and dirty. I think there are going to be many chances where you're saying this might be 3-2, but there could have been loads more, especially for United.
I'm going to go something funky here. I'm going to go 2-2 Desmond with a finish on penalties with Leicester City to win. I'm going to be optimistic as well. I'm going to be deluded, but I'm going to join you, dude. I'm joining you, dude. I'm going to join you. So I'm going to be optimistic. So can you imagine a world where we win that game, they sack Anarim, and then they hire Ruud van Nistelrooy, and they come to him with a towel between the legs and say, I'm sorry, man, do you want the job? He'd probably leave us in a heartbeat.
Oh, he definitely would for Man United. He definitely would leave us in a heartbeat for Man United currently, especially since he's just been lied to by the board, just like the previous managers, right? So, yeah, it's a bit of a shocker there. But, yeah, I hope we have Ruud for the rest of the season at the very least. I'd be down to give him the championship season. I'm not sure he wants it, but we'll see right as time progresses. Or maybe he does keep us in the Premier League. Maybe. The man is trying to work miracles. So that's my mindset currently, right? We have to work miracles to stay up. And I think if there's one guy to do it, he seems to be trying to get the best out of the squad, and let's just hope it's enough.
Let's hope, brother. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Shout out to Duck for joining me and making this so much easier. I really appreciate you having him in. You smashed it. And if you're a United supporter watching this, I'm sorry. Did I massacre this? Did I do you guys justice? Or are you sitting there thinking, what the fuck is this Australian doing talking about my club? Shut up, you idiot. But anyways, take care. Like and subscribe to Blue Tinted Glasses if you haven't already. Brilliant channel, and we'll see you. Duck, what's coming up? Are you going to be there for the match day? Are you going to be here to watch the game?
I don't know yet. Maybe I'll be there, but there will certainly be a match day live, right? So be sure to tune in for that regardless, and follow Locks. Potentially a heartbreaking watch along if we just end up getting smashed by the fourth time, or for the third time, I think, this year, with a fourth run still to come in the league.
I'm getting up at 4 a.m. So if I see any more than 2 goals go in early, I'm going back to bed.
Understandable.
Hopefully there'll be someone there to help O'Neill with the post-match, because I'm just going to bail. All right, guys, take care, like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you on the next one.